So first off, everyone, welcome to the WNBF post-show blues workshop. I'd like to thank everybody for prioritizing the time today to join our call. We hope it adds value in your post-show journey, your pre-show journey. We hope it adds some extra tools to your belt. Just a few housekeeping items. I did mention it before, but I'll ask that everybody mute their microphones if they've not already done so. We've included closed captions as well for any athletes that are hearing impaired. And then this call is also going to be recorded as a future resource for WNBF athletes, anyone exploring the WNBF, coaches, things like that. First off, my name is Lauren Halderson. If we haven't already met, I'm from the 359 Project, and I'll be your host for this call this evening. And of course, the topic for today is post-show blues. This is also called post-comp blues, post-competition depression, post-show depression. And what we'll do is we'll discuss some of the ins and outs of what post-comp blues is, some of the mindset around post-show life, how to recognize and manage the feelings and emotions that come with being post-show, and ultimately just how to have the best and healthiest post-competition experience that you can. I will note that today we will not be going over any logistics.
Ooh. Can you get Chantel to mute her?
Yeah, we'll just go like that. There we go. We won't go through any specifics of any food-based things or any workout-based things. We would ask that you refer back to your coach for that. We're going to focus on mindset for today. This call today will feature a coach's corner style panel, question and answer session with a handful of local coaches with teams that feed directly into the WNBF. Cumulatively, we have over 40 years of experience on call, which is so incredibly exciting. We're gonna have a lot of fun, a few laughs, and hopefully add a ton of value to everybody here. So without further ado, let's meet our panelists. So as I introduce you, feel free to say hi, just so your name pops up on the screen, your picture pops up on the screen so we can see you. So first off, I'd like to welcome Jackie Chaya Schuler from Schuler Fitness, based out of Calgary, Alberta.
Hi.
Thanks, Jackie. Next, we have Lisa Dardis from Shirok Hard Bodies, based out of Calgary, Alberta as well.
The old dog.
And last but not least, we have Lylas Leona from Lady Sculpt Lifestyle, based out of the beautiful Whistler, BC.
Hello.
Awesome. Well, welcome, ladies. And again, thank you so much for taking the time today to speak on this important subject. So why talk about post-show blues? Why are we here? As athletes, we've just spent the last 6 months laser focused on our diet, our training, our posing, spending countless hours in the gym, and potentially years previously in the gym training our body, building our body, because of course we're bodybuilders. We spent countless hours preparing for this one-day event. And then the day comes, show day happens, it's here. We have that half hour on stage, a whirlwind of emotions, and so much adrenaline. And everything we have been preparing for is here. And then just like that, it's over. And we're left thinking, now what? You might start to feel like you have no big purpose to push towards, maybe a slump in motivation with a change of rigid scheduling. You know, you don't have those 5 a.m. fasted cardio sessions anymore. And also your body is changing from that perfect lean stage physique back to a higher, healthier fat percentage. And that can be a little bit jarring. Your hormones could still be all over the place. Lots is happening. And this is a time where we can find ourselves feeling low, lost, without purpose, potentially disappointed, and all around uncomfortable. And it's so incredibly important for us to talk about this because so many athletes experience post-show blues. You're not alone in feeling like this. And thankfully, there are strategies that you can implement in order to be able to manage everything that comes with post-show blues so you can successfully head into a really healthy off season. The great thing is everybody who's speaking on this call is an athlete themselves, has experienced post-comp blues, and has handled a number of athletes in working through post-comp blues as well. So without further ado, let's hear from our panelists. First question, I'm going to start off calling on Jackie. So what are some of the most common symptoms of post-comp blues that you see in your athletes? And are there any one-off symptoms or feelings, emotions that you might have noticed aren't quite normal that you see, but are still worth noting?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is between myself as an athlete and as a coach that I've seen. I mean, my last show was only 2 years ago, so it's different every time. I'd say in terms of signs, one of the biggest things I've noticed either in myself or in clients is feeling lost. And that's very evident in client check-ins. They're all over the place. There's just like, it's like a journal. And you just, it's just, you're just full of confusion. There's a bit of verbal diarrhea there. Like, it's a lot in check-ins. And there might be mention of, struggling with eating habits, putting weight back on, things like that. In terms of feelings, I know I've been on both ends of the spectrum. My last prep was so difficult. I was so excited to get out of prep. I was so excited. So like, that's not normal for me. Normally I'm, that mix of excitement, overwhelmed, proud, sad, relieved, hungry, happy. Like, it's just everything at one time. I sit there and I cry. Or like, I've had athletes do the same thing. They're like, I just sat and cried the morning after the show. I'm so proud of myself, but I'm so sad, but I'm so happy. And it's all of that at one time. And it's kind of just like that perfect storm of accomplishing something so big, but then the come down of it being all done. And it's a lot of overwhelm at one time, I think would be the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna get dinner going.
Great. Thank you for your input. I really appreciate that. Let's bounce over to Lylas.
Okay. I can totally relate to what Jackie said. And just to add to that, some of the things I've noticed, it's been 4 years since I've competed, and I've definitely experienced post-comp blues myself, especially in my earlier years and seasons competing. And then with athletes now, each athlete kind of goes through their own journey post-comp, and we've really started to create strategies to help athletes with that. Some of the symptoms and just the signs that I look for or ask athletes about is looking for loss of interest or kind of that burnout, lost feeling that Jackie described. Also, this is kind of a strange one that sometimes athletes will bring to me, is loss of sex drive can be a big symptom of like showing us hormones are off, even during prep. Sometimes we see that as well. So being mindful of that for both men and women. Another really like key indicator is if you don't have another show planned, let's say you compete and then you're supposed to be done for the season, or maybe you do 2 shows and you're supposed to be done for a season, and all of a sudden you want to do another one a month from now, or you want to put another one on the schedule as soon as possible, that's a sign that you could be avoiding post-comp depression by doing that. And it's something you want to talk to your coach about and make sure that you're choosing to compete for the right reasons. Depression is another one. It can come across very much like depression, where you, again, just kind of are in an apathetic, no purpose, want to crawl in, want to rest. Tyler or Kayla, can you just turn off? We've got a couple of mics.
I gotcha. Don't worry.
Thank you. Hormone fluctuation, I talked about. Flailing, like Jackie talked about, just that kind of all over the place, not finding focus. And a lot of times we feel like we're flailing post-comp because comp requires us to be so hyper-focused. And as soon as we lose that, like that hyper-focus that comp requires often like bleeds into other areas of our life, and we become hyper-focused in almost everything during comp prep, which is one of my favorite things about comp prep, is how organized I am in every other area. But when we stop competing, often we start to flail because that organization, that hyper focus starts to kind of go off in all directions. So, and we're going to get into this with future questions in this call about how to kind of hone in on that and control that further. But those are some of the signs and symptoms that you and I've seen and you may want to watch out for.
Great thoughts. Lots of value there. Thanks, Lylas. All right, last, Lisa.
Well, it's been a minute since I competed. It's been a long time, but I've put a lot of athletes through competitions, and it happened 15 years ago for me, and I continue to see it with athletes coming through under me. I think the biggest thing, and Jackie, you hit it right at the very beginning, and it's that general lack of and sense of purpose. Like it's like planning a wedding, if you've ever been through a wedding, and you have everything happening and there's this huge culmination, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's done. And now what? And you're just kind of left hanging. And a mirage of, those feelings come through, like you can be irritable, exhaustion, feeling depressed, feeling sad, and just that sense of purpose is gone. And so trying to rummage through that and try to find a new purpose, I think, and sometimes you'll find that athletes will try to fill that purpose right away. Well, how about if I run like a 5K, like I'm going to run in a race now? And it's avoidance, like you said, Lylas. That is a huge indication, is I just am going to do something else so that I can keep myself busy. And I think what needs to happen is we should sit back and process what we've been through. And I think that's maybe one of the first things, and we'll get into that a little bit more later on. But yeah, just the same things that you ladies are talking about, and I see it with some athletes and not all athletes. And I think that's important too, is some people are good and they can just compartmentalize it and put it to the side, but then others struggle. And those are the ones that we need to watch all of our athletes, but those in particular, those are the ones that we really need to help out a lot more.
Absolutely. Great thoughts, Lisa. Appreciate it. All right, on to our next question. What are some aspects of post-show blues that you think it's most important to normalize? Let's start with Lylas.
Okay, I mean, this is such a perfect question leading out of what Lisa was just saying, in terms of everybody's journey coming out of comp is different. And I think normalizing that post-show blues is a thing, and that not everyone's going to experience it the same. And some of us, especially, I mean, most women that compete are pretty driven. Like we're most of us are pretty type A and like, and pretty competitive and pretty focused and pretty disciplined. And we may not want to admit that we're feeling sad or feeling unmotivated or feeling down in any way. And so I really think that normalizing talking about it, which is why like I'm so like honored to be part of this panel, and so happy that Lauren suggested this call, because it is real, and it does, I'd say it hits probably 70% of us. And it's something that it's important as an athlete to feel confident and comfortable reaching out to your coach and saying, hey, I'm not okay, or hey, I'm struggling, or hey, I need a little bit more support. And as coaches, especially like younger coaches that are starting out, or younger athletes that are starting out, really like talking about it, asking your athletes how they're doing, talking to other coaches about what they do with their athletes post show, and making their post, like for me, I'm learning, and this is something I'm like just starting to implement now with my team after years and years of training comp athletes, is I'm including a post comp month as part of their comp package, because so many athletes are like done competing, don't need a coach anymore, or like step back from coaching. And I think that the month after show is almost just as important, if not more important, than some of the months leading up to your comp prep, having that support, that mental health support. So just normalizing that post-comp depression is a thing, I think is huge. Other things that I can add to that, things I have in my notes, is weight gain. It's very normal to gain weight. You should probably gain weight post-comp. And talking to your coach about what's reasonable for you. This is something I go over with my athletes at some point during their prep. I sit them down and I'm like, this is a weight that would be healthy to hold post-show. How are you feeling in your body right now? Let's do a journal entry on it, or let's talk about it. Let's take a photo. Let's bookmark this so that you know where your post-comp rebound is going, what it looks like. Things I also added was self-compassion and allowing rest and recovery to happen, normalizing that it's okay to take a week or 2 or 3 or even a month off post-show if you feel like you need it to recover, to allow your body to cover, your adrenals to cover, your hormones to recover. And it's okay to feel all the feels. I'll move on because I know the other coaches have other things to add, so I don't have to go through my whole list. But normalizing, like Jackie said, with that first question, is feeling like all the feels. There is no normal feelings to have during comp prep. It's one of those things I love about comp prep is it brings out such amazing humanness because it gives us access to all the emotions, which is so fun.
Amazing. Okay. So much value there. Thank you. Okay, Lisa, let's hear from you.
You bet. I just think that the biggest thing is that emptiness. If that is what you're feeling, that is completely normal to feel empty. When you've spent all this time on food prep, or maybe your partner food preps for you, but food prep is there. It's all the cardio or conditioning, the weight training. You have been so consumed for at least 16 weeks if you're doing a 16-week prep for stage. So for 16 weeks, it has consumed your mind and your body, and you've given it 100%. In fact, I know for myself, when I would compete, I would just talk about it nonstop with my husband, and he's like, okay, like, you've talked a lot about this, like, we need to talk about something else. But that is on your mind 24/7. So is it normal to feel that emptiness? Absolutely. And it's normal, Lylas, like you said, like, there's so many other emotions. Like, you could break down crying the next day. You could be super happy and on a super high. There's just so many feelings that come around it. And it's just normalizing that, knowing that it's okay. I think as athletes, reaching out to your coach is important, because as coaches, we can't read minds either. I can check in with my different clients that are, finished, competed now, and I do have more that are competing coming up, but the ones that have finished, it's like I'm reaching out to them. But if they don't tell me, and I don't see them in person because I don't do one-on-one training in person, I don't know. So maybe I'll hear it from a friend of theirs, because they're more likely to tell somebody else before they'll tell me. And I think that's so important then, for that somebody else to tell the coach maybe, or to encourage that person, like, you know what, maybe you should talk to your coach about this. And I think we need to make people feel, like our clients, they need to feel that it is normal. I think for so long, all of the emotions we're supposed to push them down. You're not supposed to feel that. And I think we're in a day and age now where we celebrate actually mental health. So we want to make sure that we are healthy. And this is part of that. This is no different. Maybe some people don't think of fitness shows as a big deal, but we're in this. We as coaches are in this because we take it serious. We as people who've competed take this serious. So it is a part of our life, and it's a big part of our life when you look at how much time we've put into it. So I do think it's important to normalize all those feelings. As a coach, it's important for us to support our athletes and to reach out to them. But as athletes, it's also very, very important for you to let your coach know what's going on, because we can't help you if we don't know. And we can't help you to feel normal if we don't know. Yeah. So.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Lisa. Amazing. All right. Off to Jackie.
Awesome. Thank you. That was awesome. And like, I have to agree with everything both Lylas and Lisa said, because it's hard to normalize something sometimes when you feel so much and there's so many different things. And so it's like, hey, well, what's normal? So it's good to just be like, okay, this mess that I'm feeling, this is just normal. So it's like that, and that's okay. And it's funny because Lylas was talking about all of us being like type A and stuff. I'm like, speaking of type A, I literally wrote all my answers down to the questions beside me, because otherwise I will have the verbal diarrhea I was speaking of at the beginning, because I will just la 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 all the way back and then squirrel brain my way back to the actual topic. So if I'm looking to the side, I'm referring to my notes. But I think it's important to just to build off of what these two said, like, important to normalize that everyone goes through some form of feeling. Like it doesn't have to be sadness or overwhelm like a lot of people do feel. And it can be varying in intensity too. Like like Lisa said, you spent all this time and energy dedicated to one thing, in the blink of an eye it's over. Like it's really tough. Sometimes you just wake up and you're like, huh. So like sometimes, you might feel that like adrenaline the next day of like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna take my judge's feedback and I'm gonna like run like the wind with it. And then all of a sudden you have a bad day and it's like, oh, and you don't have time to feel. So like what Lylas said, it's like that continuation of like needing to go. And so like normalizing that you might have that high and then a low, or a low then a high. Like it's just, there's no right way to post show. It's just knowing that you have support, right? I also think, like to build on this too, again, like it was mentioned, like every season for the same competitor might be different. Like I said at the beginning of the call, for me as an athlete, I've had seasons where, especially when I first started, I was like, what the heck? Like, what is going on with my body? Like, I don't like this gaining weight thing. This is freaking me out. Why did it happen so fast when it took so long to lose? Like, that was the biggest thing, right? And so I think that's the biggest thing, is just normalizing, going back to what's healthy for your body, and knowing that it's overwhelming to feel that way sometimes, and it's frustrating but awesome, and there's so many different things, right? And I know with some of the athletes I've worked with too, like it's a phase. It is a phase that they have to move through and feel and acknowledge what they're feeling, and reach out for that additional support if they need. And like Lisa said, like talk to your coach. Like we don't know what we don't know. Like, we have no idea. So if you're an athlete that's struggling right now and you haven't mentioned it to your coach, talk to them. They're there for you. So I think that everything was basically said. I just wanted to drive some of those points home, because all that was great already.
Amazing. Thanks, Jackie. All right, our next question. How can athletes stay excited about their training? Let's start with Lisa.
All right. So I think one of the key things is, once you're ready to start training again, and that might be different for every single person. Somebody might be ready in a week. I know I have some clients, one in particular, she's here right now. She was very excited to get going right away. And then others want to take a little bit of time. But no matter what, I think SMART goals for me, I stress them. I love the acronym. You're going to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely with the goals. I think having a long-term goal, but more importantly, is breaking them into short-term goals. And I think one of the biggest thing, like those goals have to be manageable. So if you continue to work with your coach and you're setting these goals, I don't think there is a time and a place for the check-ins with photos and with weight, but I think having different goals than having it weight related or having it photo related. It's like, okay, like what are you lifting now? Like, let's go for some heavy lifts. We want to work on judges' feedback. You need more of a back. Okay, let's really focus on those back. Tell me what you're lifting. How much weight are you lifting? Are you trying to increase it? So having those little goals to help get that enthusiasm and that excitement back into their training. I think as a coach, for me, I like to know all of my athletes' feedback. So I love the WNBF for this. Going to the judges at the end of the show and getting feedback. I'm like, write everything down or record it. Sit with your phone, press record, say, I'm going to record this, and have them tell you exactly what you need to work on. Bringing that back, I always ask my athletes, write it down for me, send me an email, and let's pick some goals from this, especially if you want to continue on. Like, so that's mainly for an athlete that wants to compete again, wants to get better. Let's look at these goals. Let's set them together. Let's look at what the judges say. Okay, we need a little bit of improvement here. So let's work on that capping of the shoulders. And I think then that's really easy to get them excited again and get them ready to look to grow and improve. And having a timeline, having a set timeline. The biggest thing is improvement. It's a process and it takes time. Refinement takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So you got to be realistic. And that's why the SMART goal setting to me is important, because setting something that's realistic for that person. and every client is different. Every person has different things they need to work on, and genetics play a role in it. You got to talk about all those things together. So I think that, I like getting goals set. I think it helps to keep that enthusiasm and helps to keep those athletes going. So that's my 2 cents.
Great tidbits. Thank you, Lisa. All right, over to Jackie.
Takes a second to unmute. So I love what Lisa said. Setting goals was like exactly what I had down here. So like you've accomplished what I believe to be one of the toughest mental and physical battles that you can put yourself through in the fitness industry when you decide to compete. Like, not only is it physical, it is very much mental, if not mostly mental. Like, you exercise, you can train, but like to put yourself through this is huge. And so like that's something to be super proud of. So then to go to some new goals is like just shifting that excitement, right? Something that you're excited about. So working on goals with your coach is super important, like Lisa said. Judges feedback, so focusing on a new program, like literally everything that Lisa said is what I wrote down. So like whether you're choosing to compete again or not, like set a new goal. Like maybe you don't want to compete again. Maybe you want to do a Tough Mudder or CrossFit or start a family or whatever it might be. Like get excited about something. Like think of life outside of competing, because I have this as like a bit of an answer later on too, but like there's so much outside that has been surrounding competing. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, this stuff matters again. So it's just like, okay, what matters most to you right now? Because things may have changed in the last 16 weeks or a year that you've decided to compete, right? Who you were before you started, I guarantee you is not who you are now, because competing changes you in some of the coolest ways possible. And this is a time to just like lead out of that, show excitement and get excited about something else.
Amazing. Thanks, Jackie. All
I
right,
love
Lylas.
I don't have a ton to add. What I really want to like pinpoint on is absolutely new goals, new focus, looking at performance-based goals rather than aesthetic goals just for a little while. I really like putting my comp athletes, like let them rest and then put them into strength training, and have them like find some new strength, because going through comp prep in depletion makes you feel weak a little bit. Even though you look really strong, you feel weak. So really shifting into, I'm eating more, but now look how strong I am. So like athletes see where those calories are going, and you may not feel as lean, but you feel so strong, and learning to love feeling strong. I have learned, like, now I love feeling strong more than I worry about being lean. Also, I think a really good way to stay excited about training post-comp is sometimes when we're in comp, it's hard to train with somebody because our goals are so focused and so specific and unique to us. But if you can team up and find a training partner post-comp that maybe has more strength or building goals, or even just to be at the gym at the same time, to get you there, to socialize a little bit, to make it fun, and just to change the energy, I find that can really help with staying excited about your training. And if comp isn't on your future plan, like if you're a one and done kind of person, it's totally okay to be that way, but find out what part of, like, how much training fits into your lifestyle moving forward. So if your goal is to compete again and make those improvements, maybe you are sticking to the gym 4 or 5 days a week. But if your goal is like you attained your goal, your body is amazing, and now you want to shift that focus, like Jackie was saying, into a family or into something else, what does that future you look like in terms of how many times they go to the gym? Maybe it's twice a week. Figure that out so that you can commit to that and get excited about those 2 times a week rather than, twice a day.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Great. So there was a question in the chat that I actually want to talk about now. I was thinking about doing questions afterwards, but it applies directly to what we're talking about. Jesse asked, how do we deal with the scary feelings of setting that new goal and thinking you'll never be able to get back to where you were when you competed? Do any of you ladies have any thoughts on that? First dibs.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I mean, one of the best things I ever learned was to feel the fear and do it anyway. It's like lean into some of those scary things. And what I truly believe, and this isn't just to encourage people, like I've seen this in myself, I've seen it in athletes that have competed multiple times. It's like, do you want to be who you were when you last competed? Right? This is bodybuilding, right? So whether you're building on judges' feedback, you want to build on what you were and who you were the last time you competed. So I would say, like, lean into that fear, get to training, set those new goals, and see what happens next. Like, you can't control what happens in the future, so you may as well put in the work and then just see what happens. Like, that's probably the best advice I could give somebody. I don't know if anyone else has anything else to add.
I'll just do a quick add to that. My experience as a coach and as an athlete is with a proper rest and recovery season. The second time you do it, the third time you do it, each time you do it, it actually gets easier as long as your body has had that rest and that growth season and that off season. The dialing in part, I find anyway, with my athletes and with myself, that it actually gets easier. So what you believe, I think, is what will happen. So if you're living in a place of fear and scared about it and worried about it, it will be hard.
Yeah.
But if you believe that it's not going to be and that your body is super capable and that you can do it, anything's possible.
Love it. Lisa, do you have any additional thoughts?
I would just say, I think that when you do back-to-back competitions, it can be harder because you know what to expect. First-time athletes, first time through, you are amazed at the end what you can do. I think you need to keep building on that. I think you need to go back to remember what that felt like and know that you can be better. I always try to encourage my clients, be better than what you were last time. And I just know that when you're going back-to-back shows, sometimes it can be very, very hard because you know what to expect. So Lylas, I liked what you said about taking that time to recover and do that properly, because I think then you come in with a good mindset again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. That was an excellent piece. That was good learning for me. So thank you.
Yeah.
It sounds like the question is,
go ahead.
no, it sounds like our question is more amongst about going in a different goal direction and becoming a mom and then coming back, which I can't speak to. I haven't been there.
I was a mom when I had my competition, so.
And I'm not quite there yet either. So
All right.
What I can say as a coach that has coached many moms that have toddlers to compete for the first time, we've got a pretty awesome crew of like moms with young kids on our team. And I think it's an awesome, like, your body is definitely different post kids, but it's an awesome goal to see where you can get your body to post kids, and understanding that your body is going to react different and it is going to change. And we have an athlete on our team that is competing now after having 2 kids, and her body is better now than it was before kids. So anything, like, again, like I said before, anything's possible.
Amazing. Great value. Yeah, great discussion. I love that. Thank you so much. And great question, Jessie. All right, on to our next question. What would you say the importance of rest is in recovering from a show and from managing post-show blues? Let's start with Jackie.
I was like, Lylas literally just started talking about this. And that's actually what I was like starting to talk to you about, like, at the same time. And like, I'll speak very quickly to my experience in my last comp season. Is I was definitely coming down from a very stressful time in my life, and I decided, competing will be a great idea. Let's get back on stage. And I can speak to having rested, but not truly rested mentally, physically. I had the worst prep I've ever had. The worst prep. My body was so angry and wouldn't respond. So I can definitely, just to kind of start off the topic of rest, it's so important. And to know that rest comes in many forms. Like, it's not just, hey, am I getting enough sleep? Like, rest comes in many forms. Like, obviously sleep, taking care of your body, that's very important. But stress is a big one. So physical stress from your workouts, the stress of your diet, stress on your hormones, like, There's so much stress in your body that you've just been in that fight or flight towards competing in a way that like you sometimes don't realize it, right? Your immune system is impacted, all of those things. And again, this isn't for everybody. This isn't to diagnose people. This is just like this can happen. And that mental rest, I think, is so often overlooked because it's hard enough to try and get an athlete, whether it be yourself or as a coach, to tell them, hey, we're going to take like a deload or a complete rest week this week after the show. And they're like, what? But I don't want to. So it's hard enough to do that. And then on top of that, mentally realize that, you know, you're feeling a lot of things. You deserve to have that rest. You need to have that rest. And just also noticing if there's feelings that don't serve you, that are starting to come up during that time. So part of that mental rest, if there's things that are coming up, maybe kind of take the time and see, you know, what's kind of causing that feeling. Maybe it's not even competition directed or it coming from there, right? It might be social media, it might be certain people in your life, you know, it might just be self-talk. Like take the time to, as part of that, like feel your feels, acknowledge like where you might be feeling this, and part of those stressors might be some of those things, right? So resting from overloading your brain from all of the things from prep is super huge, which in turn is, you know, managing your stressors and has a very positive impact on your recovery after a show.
Great thoughts. Amazing. Thank you. All right, let's head over to Lisa. Oh, Lisa, you're muted.
I just want to build on that. I think for so many people, we just think, oh, recovery, rest and recovery. Oh, okay, that's just like resting the body and letting us replenish. And Jackie, you hit it bang on. It is the mental. We forget about that mental aspect. And that is probably the most important part of this all, is it takes a mental toll on a person going through this. You have just been consumed so much, and that stress, that physical stress, well, that all leads to that mental part, and we forget to take care of that. And I think if we can really focus on that, all the other things will come into play with taking care of our mental part of coming off of the competition. We're going to rest our bodies. We're going to understand that we need to recover. We need to replenish our stores. We need to, you know, take a break from the training, the super hard training or the high reps. Like you've just been, for my clients, they'll go on high reps for the last few weeks. We need to take a break from that. And so I think it starts off with the mental piece, and then it goes into the physical part of it, and then going into the eating, which we're going to talk about later as well. We got to replenish everything. So you got to have that mental break, because without that, you're not going to have that physical rest. So that's what I would say.
Great. Thank you. All right, and on to Lylas.
Okay, I'm just going to touch on that briefly. I want to just say, Jackie, I've so been there when I laughed when you said that you added comp prep on top of a crazy schedule, because I've done that. I also want to encourage, if you're getting a full back tattoo, don't compete at the same time. Your adrenals can't handle it. So this is all stuff I learned when I first started competing. But again, to reiterate what Jackie says, consider all different stressors, different physical stress, different mental stress. If you're starting a new job, if you're moving, if you, if one of your kids is going through something tough, like competition is very much about timing and making sure, as much as it helps you organize and focus your life, it also requires so much of you. It is a bit of a selfish sport. I think I can say that, and we can all agree. So it needs to be the right time for you physically, mentally, and for your family. What I wrote down in my notes was rest is important in all aspects of training, but even more so in comp prep, giving your body time to reset, recharge, refuel. And I just want to really nail this in. You guys won't lose muscle mass if you don't gym for a week or 2 or 3 or even a month. And if anything, after taking that rest, you give your body this beautiful opportunity for some beginner gains. You may actually feel those DOMs again, which we all chase, right? So taking that rest, I'm actually doing a whole call about just this topic in 20 minutes, is so important, especially post-comp not only for your mental health, not only for your body to recharge, but also for your growth season, right? By taking that rest, you're setting your body up for the most potential growth you can possibly have. And I want to encourage you to continue to take rest periods throughout your training. Talk to your coach about it more, but don't be afraid to do deload weeks. Don't be afraid to take, a vacation and actually not go to the gym. It's okay. Rest is really important. That's what I got.
Great. Amazing. Thank you. Love it. Okay, next question. What is the importance of having some sort of eating plan coming out of a show, and why? Let's start with Lylas.
Okay, back to my notes here. Because your brain forgets what normal eating looks like. I don't know about you guys, but when I first competed, no one gave me a post-comp meal plan. No one gave me anything. And my brain was like, what do I eat post-comp? Timbits. That sounds great. Let's just have Timbits like 13 times a day. So because we're on such a strict regimen with our food, our brain is like, okay, comp food is broccoli and chicken and whatever your meal plan consists of. And when I'm not competing, your brain goes to the other end of the spectrum. It forgets that there's these really nice in-between meals that you used to love, like salads with everything on them, like the nuts and the avocado and the dressings and stuff like that. So having a plan when you come out of competition as to what that's going to look like, it provides your brain with that focus. And what we were talking about earlier, that flaily feeling and that feeling lost, having a plan for post-comp can really help you to feel organized and structured. And also to stay focused, not be so lost, but also to safely reverse your metabolic system back into consuming more carbohydrates, more calories in general, and to bring your mental health and your hormones back to a regulated state. If you're like after my first competition I lived off of like fast food and donuts because no one told me any different. And I gained an obscene amount of weight in a very, very short period of time. And it messed with my hormones. And I wish that on nobody. It's one of the reasons I spend so much time creating post-comp plans for my athletes.
Amazing. Thank you for all those thoughts. That was great. Okay,
Sorry,
over okay, over to Lisa.
So I also think, adding on to what you ate after your first show, the intolerances to food. So I think having your athletes, setting them up with a plan, reintroducing foods, because you're so strict in what you're consuming that all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm going to add yogurt in, and holy cow, like my intestines are revolting it, and the bloating and everything. So I think it's so important to have a eating plan where we're adding the calories back in, adding the different foods back in, because we're intolerant, we're not allergic. It's not, yes, it's causing us to bloat, but that's not because we can't eat it anymore. We have to slowly introduce it. So reintroducing the foods back into meal plans, I think that's super important. Also, I think it goes hand in hand, like the planning part of it. We like the plans. That's why we become these athletes. That's why we become really good at it. So coming out of the show, we still need a plan. We still want that plan, adding reward meals back in. So I keep reward meals through the whole competition time, adding them back in, because that last week or 2 weeks, you're not going to do that. Well, we still want to have that. Maybe it's the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time you're cleaning eats and 20% of the time you're adding that little reward in. And just knowing that you're recovering. We're putting stuff back into our body. We're increasing the calories, because you can't maintain that body, that stage body. You can't maintain that. It's not healthy. It's the unhealthiest healthy sport there is. Right. So I love what you're saying, Lylas, and it's just continuing, like knowing that I don't have to stay with the chicken, the broccoli, and the rice. I need to add more food in. I need that variety, but I don't want to go overboard, because we have seen those clients or those athletes who have gone and eaten everything, and then they end up with edema. and the swollen, like hugely swollen ankles, and that's from improper nutrition. So we want to make sure that we're helping them past the stage of just getting to the stage and now getting back into the regular lifestyle and feeding that body properly. And it's part of the recovery, huge part. Yeah.
Amazing. Great thoughts. Thanks, Lisa. Over to Jackie.
Well, you're talking about Timbits. I'm gluten intolerant. I haven't had a Timbit in like 10 years. I want a Timbit now. Either way. So really, like, you two already like nailed it on the head. I basically just jotted down, having some form of protocol, or, method to the madness for your food. It's individual to the person, obviously, as to like what you should do. But it's kind of like that build off of what the, maybe end of your prep look like, or it could look like multiple different things. But I think to, expand on what Lisa said too, like, you've been so regimented for so long, it's like for you to all of a sudden just stop that can also cause, some of that chaos, those wheels to keep turning, right? So to keep aspects of your routine, I think personally as an athlete and as a coach is important to keep aspects of your routine in, because if you just all of a sudden ditch it, it's like you're letting the gates down to just anything, right? So you've been incredibly disciplined, you've been regimented. Keep aspects of that in, like we talked about earlier. It's like, what aspects of your training seem realistic? It's like, okay, well, what aspects of your nutrition seem realistic moving forward, right? And so, talking to your coach about, hey, this is what I think is realistic for me, and you can work together. That's what your coach is for, right? Like, you work together on that. And just again, to expand on what both of them said too, like, you're going from eating in an extreme deficit to all of a sudden being like, pizza. And so it's like, okay, well, yes, pizza, but maybe a little bit of pizza, not a whole pizza, because I've done that immediately walking off stage. I think this was 5 years ago. Toby and I went out for pizza and nachos, gluten and dairy intolerant, by the way. And I could not sleep that night. I literally rolled over holding my side. And it's like, those are the things you want to avoid. Everybody learns because everybody does it at least once, I feel like. But like, the food intolerances are huge. Like, I definitely noticed them a lot more with prepping. I gave myself an intolerance to chicken for a whole year. Imagine prepping without chicken for a whole year. It was incredibly difficult. So like, it's just one of those things, like, slowly integrate things back in, work with your team on a plan. That's why they're there. So having some sort of protocol that works for you and that is realistic, going back to the goals, like Lisa said, those SMART goals, I think can be incredibly important, but you have to be realistic with what your protocol is going to look like afterwards.
Awesome.
Can we just normalize what Jackie just said there? And everybody does it. Everybody does a post-comp that they regret. Everyone. Yeah. Normalized it.
Yeah.
Great. Amazing, ladies. Thank you. Okay, next question. How long have you found that it takes people to level out mentally post-show? What can people expect timeline-wise? Let's start with Lisa.
Everybody's different. Okay, I'm done. No, I'm just, you know what? Everybody is different and we all need different levels of support. And that's why I said before, if I can just go back to that, it's like your coach needs to know. We don't know what we don't know. So I think that some people, if they have some issues prior to competing, so if there's some levels of depression beforehand or eating disorders beforehand, those can go big. They can all of a sudden blow up. And I think that, so that history becomes an important part of it. I've had clients go from, maybe a month to get out of the show all the way up to 6 months. Every person is different. The biggest thing I think that we need to keep coming back to is this is normal. We all go through it. Some people, maybe it's going to be a week, some people a month, some people 6 months. But we need to find that support and we need that help. And maybe the coach, like, I'm not a psychologist. I have some great ones that I recommend. So it's getting the outside help if we need it. Because if I'm not enough, if I don't know exactly what they need, then I think it's important to get outside help for that person and suggest it, and knowing that it's normal. It's okay to get that outside help.
Yeah.
Amazing. Great thoughts. All right, over to Jackie.
That's incredibly important. And again, I find I'm speaking both as an athlete and as a coach here, like, because you can relate to both, even more so as an athlete, honestly. But exactly what Lisa said, like, everybody's different. Everyone's different. I think don't expect it to be quick, though. Don't expect it to be quick, because like your prep wasn't quick. Like, again, it takes time to lose weight, get to where you were. Like, coming out of that and getting back to whatever your new normal looks like, or creating that new normal, is going to take time, because you need to kind of investigate and discover, what that looks and feels like for you. So I'd say, like, don't set a timeline. Like, this can be a roller coaster. Like, expect it to feel like a roller coaster. It might feel like, like a kiddie ride, or it could feel like a Canada's Wonderland roller coaster. Like, it could be either. But expect it to kind of, swirl you around a little bit. At the end of the day, like I said, don't give yourself a timeline necessarily. Like, just work at it, work with your people, ask for help. And I know this is a question more so about how long it takes. And I would say, like Lisa said, like I said at the beginning, it's different for everybody. But if I can add some advice to this, it's just like, meet yourself with patience, kindness, compassion, ask for help from your support system.
Amazing. Great thoughts. All right, Lylas.
I mean, I agree with what Jackie and Lisa have said, and there's not a ton more to add here. I've seen it last a lifetime. I've seen people compete and never kind of come back to a place where they feel their mental health has fully recovered. I shouldn't say that, but years. And I do think that it has a lot to do with how hard you push your season. I think that competing smartly and recognizing that you need off seasons and you need time in between competitions, and your body being pushed to the absolute limit is very hard on you mentally. And if you continue to do that back to back to back to back to back, it will take you longer to recover. The athletes that I see do back-to-back seasons, like a spring season right into a fall season, take longer to recover mentally than the athletes that just pick one. And athletes that go season to season to season to season and don't take a season off in between take even longer, or may never come back to competition because their metabolisms just can't handle, or they just don't repair. They just take long. So it can be devastating on mental health and metabolic health. So really making sure that you're competing smartly and you're not just chasing the next competition and that next dopamine fix. What I would say to expect is 1 to 3 months is a pretty average state to expect to need to be aware of your mental health. But I think within competition prep, this is such a beautiful sport for making us so very aware of ourselves, our bodies, our food, how we change, our mindsets, our feelings, everything. So I'm going to say that you probably will never quite be the same mentally, and you're just going to be very much more aware of your mental health and how you feel and your body and your physical health forevermore.
Love that. So powerful. Amazing. Okay, let's do one last question, because I know Lylas has to run. What mindset would you hope an athlete would adopt post-show to have the most headspace success? Let's start with Lylas.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to go right back into what I just said. I think that a mindset post-show really starts with your pre-show mindset. So like going in with a me versus me mentality, this being a judged sport, this being a sport that you have no control over who else shows up and what package they bring to the show, or what the judges are even looking for on that specific day, that specific panel. Setting yourself up for a healthy post-comp mindset is really setting up yourself ahead of time with Emma, and I think Lisa touched on this earlier, but your only goal should be bringing the best body you've ever had to stage. Everything else is semi out of your hands. And when we can adopt that mindset and have it be a growth mindset, and then take our placement and our judges' feedback and looking at the physiques that may have placed above us, and looking at that as, okay, this is what I can improve on. This is what my next goal is, can really help with your post-comp mindset. I also wrote down, and I know Jackie touched on this already, but for most people, comp isn't your life, it's a lifestyle. And so remembering that comp has kind of taken over your life for the last 14 weeks or 20 weeks or however long, and reminding yourself that it's part of your lifestyle. It's not your life. So reintegrating hobbies and things that are outside of competition, maybe other sports, dancing, art, whatever it is that you love to do, reintegrating that back in can really help keep you in a positive mindset. I think that's about everything.
Great.
I have on there.
Amazing.
Okay, moving
Thank you.
on. I might peace out here in a minute.
Yes, thank you so much for your time and thoughts. It's so much value.
We love you.
Okay, over to Lisa.
All right. I think the biggest thing is be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace. That's like, as soon as you're done that show, like it has been so time consuming, and it has become number one for a period of time. So be kind to yourself. I think for all of us is the biggest thing. Spending more time with family and friends and doing other activities. Creating that post-competition rest and recovery plan. I think that's so important to help with that headspace. All of the things that we talked about today, having that meal plan set up, making sure that you're not looking for validation from other people or looking on social media. Like I think the biggest thing is appreciating where you were, appreciating your body and what you got it to and what you were capable of doing and showing up on that stage. And then afterwards, it's being kind and getting into that lifestyle again, because this was a piece of time. Like, this is 16 weeks in a period of time. At that time, I was between 39 and 43 years of age when I was competing. Each time was 16 weeks in the 4 times I competed. So it's a small piece of your life. There is so much more to explore and to do. So I think that's Lylas, you were key on of, doing other things that you enjoy. And I think that's really important.
Amazing. Great value there, Lisa. Thank you. All right, over to Jackie.
Because I just love what both of you said. It was so good. And even like me from 2 years ago is absorbing this. And it's like the athlete in me needs to hear this too. And it's awesome. So I'd say to just build on what Lisa and Lyla said is just being open. Like, openness to learning. This is a huge learning curve, especially if this is your first time. So be open to the possibility of, maybe not feeling anything, or maybe not feeling intense, or maybe a whirlwind of emotions. Like, just be open to that, open to other aspects of your life. So like I said, I was going to touch on this at a later question. It's like, competing is just a part of your life. It's not all of it. So just like what Lisa and Lylas had just said, like, as much as everything surrounds your prep, like, tag in another part as an important piece. It's just going to make your next prep that much better. Like, think of the rest of your life, the other parts of your life, as like solid walls to your prep and like your foundation. Like, you're only as strong as those walls in your foundation. And it's just going to help build you up for the next time. And so be open. And I'd say the next biggest thing is, like, please don't feel like you need to do this alone. Ask for help. Like, you've heard all of us say this multiple times. Like, don't be stubborn. I am stubborn. Don't be stubborn. You don't have to do this by yourself. Like, post show is a time for like community, and it's a time for coming together with your team. And like, this community right here is like a huge reason. Like, we love this community, and this is why we want to support everyone. So like, just be open to the support that is there.
Amazing. That's so great. Okay, because Lylas has gifted us with an extra 15 minutes, I'm going to ask one more question. Thank you. Thank you. What is an area that you feel athletes could do a better job of post-show that they might not be aware of is putting them at a greater risk for more intense post-show blues? Let's start with Lisa.
Two things come to mind right away is trying to stay too lean. So trying to keep that composition, that body composition that you had on stage, trying to prolong that, trying to hang on to that, and not taking enough rest. I think that both of those will sadly set us up for failure along the road. So, and we touched on so many of those topics as we've been talking through each of these questions. So that rest, we really hammered that home, taking that time. And then we haven't talked a lot about that staying too lean, but the very first time you compete and it's like, oh my gosh, I've never had a six-pack before. And like, holy cow, like look at, like I can stand sideways, you can barely see me. I could stand behind post. I think that, you know, we love that feeling and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm in the best shape of my life. No, you're not. You're in the leanest shape of your life, but trying not to keep that body composition. You can't maintain it. It will mess with your hormones. It will mess with you later on down the road. Taking that rest and then adding those foods back in, adding those other activities, setting up those SMART goals, all of things that we've talked about, I think are highly important for this. So, yeah.
Yeah, incredible. Great. Thank you for those thoughts. Let's hop over to Jackie.
No, that's super awesome. And yeah, definitely something that needs to be thought about, right? So I love that. I'm kind of resorting back to what I said in the last question is like, I think a big thing is thinking that you're alone. And it's like, oh, I overindulged in a meal. It's like, oh my gosh. And you know, you feel like you're the only one that does it or the only one that struggles. And you're not. And that's not to, you know, take away validation from how you're feeling, but that's to like let you know, hey, like there's a community of people around you that have either, you know, been through this in some shape or form, can relate to exactly what you're feeling or maybe a part of it. And so that's why, you know, be open. This is such a safe space in this community that like you can talk about it. Like, and I think that's the next thing is maybe you don't realize you're afraid of being judged afterwards too. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, well, like if I put on weight, what are people going to think? And it's, you know, let that outside noise stay outside noise. You did such a good job staying in your lane, your entire prep, keep those blinders on. But it's like, you just need to come back into it with, you know, my next point being a realistic approach, right? Like you got to be open. You have to be realistic. I mean, you don't have to, you can choose whatever you want to do. This is me just saying it, but, you know, be realistic. This is the last thing I would say is maybe you aren't really aware that you're not being realistic. At the end of a prep, you know, your plan, your routine, kind of resorting back to the last questions that we talked about, need versus want. That's a big thing that I say to myself all the time too. It's like, is this something you want to do or is this something you need to do right now? And that's something where you can kind of check yourself. And that last reminder of just like, food isn't going anywhere. Food is there. It is there. It is just there. So, you know, when you want to go eat that whole box of chocolates that's sitting in your pantry, just, you know, go have one, go have two, you know, maybe four, but you don't need the whole box, right? Want versus need. It's check yourself in that realistic mindset.
Amazing. Great. Thanks so much. That is so much value there. Incredible value today. Lylas.
I don't have much to add to that. I feel like they both hit it on the head. The one of the things I want to say is I think it's amazing that there's so many athletes here. I think one of the things that athletes could do a better job of to avoid post-comp or just to normalize it is to be more aware of it, which you guys are all doing just by being here. I think that it is something that needs to be normalized and talked about more. And I'm so grateful that we're doing this call and that Lauren suggested it. Another thing I just want to add that hasn't been said yet is stay involved in your comp community. Like not only like use us and support and like ask for support, but like even if you're not competing next year, go volunteer at a show. Go support the rest of your team that is competing. Go be involved. Go to posing clinics. Go like it's okay if you're off season weight or if you're 10 or 15 pounds heavier than your stage weight and you're posing. That's where you get really good at posing, is when you can learn to pose your off-season body. So stay involved, help out the community, help out new athletes, because that first learning curve is so intense that the more athletes that have even competed just once, helping out those new athletes is incredible. So
For sure.
Unreal. I've got goosebumps. Incredible. Thank you. Wow. So those are the questions that we'll have for today. We'll wrap up there. Thank you again, ladies, for taking the time to speak on this incredibly important topic and sharing all of your wisdom. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. If you want to connect with any of the speakers or myself that were on this call today, be sure to follow on Instagram. I put their handles in the chat. Be sure to just copy and paste into your Instagram there. And be sure to follow WNBF Canada on Instagram to keep up to date with the upcoming season and all the value-packed workshops to come. We're hoping to do this a number of times, hopefully in the spring, and again this time next year. That wraps up our call today. Thank you everyone for taking the time to attend this. Made it such a success with everybody being here. We all hope it added value to you in your competing journey, not only now, but for years to come. Stay tuned on information on where to find this recording for future reference if you need it. And good luck to all the athletes competing at Worlds this year. And we hope to see everyone in a 2024 for another unreal season. Thanks, everyone. Take care and have a great night.
Lauren, for
thank
hosting.
you. Yep, thank you very much, you guys. Have a great night.